Chaturveda Shri Bhagavat Prasado Svarana Tripta Nari Bhakta Sangha Kritaiva Triptim Bhajata Sadaiva Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Shri Radhika Madhavayurapara Madhurya Lila Guna Rupanam Nam Bhakti Shanasvadana Lolupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Nikunjayuno Ratikeli Siddhai Yayali Bhiyuktira Pikshaniya Tatrati Daksha Dati Valabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Sakshadaridvena samasta shastir Uktastata bhavyata eva sadvi Hintu pravarya priyeva tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Yasya prasadar Bhagavat prasado Yasya prasada nagati kutapi Dayam stubam stasya yasya shri sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda 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 Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasya Chadishatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Nila Madhav, Radha Nila Madhav Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Nila Madhav, Radha Nila Madhav Shri Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Lakshmana Hanuman. Jaya Goranita, Jaya Goranita, Jaya Goranita, Jaya Goranita. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva. Nitya Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitya Gaura Haribo.
Jai Vishnu Pada Brahmam Sapataka Chaya Shtota Shata Shishmatis Divine Grace Aparchana Rinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBTBI Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Vishnu Pada Brahmam Sapataka Chaya Shtota Shata Shishmatis Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Premi se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrajabhumi Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Shri Purushottam Chaitar Jagnapuri Dham Ki Jai Shri Ayodhya Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Shri Ramanuja Acharya Tirobhava Mahosava Ki Jai, Shri Vaishnava Sampradaya Ki Jai, Harinama Sankirtana Ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Praladadayine. Hiranyakashipurvakshaha. Shilatankanakalaye. Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha. Yato yato yami tato Narsimha. Bahe Narsimha Hridaye Narsimha. Narasimhamadim Sharanam Prapade. Tava Kara Kamalavari Nakam Adbhuta Shringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringam Keshava धरिता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे केशवदृता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा नीता गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल गौर हरि बोल
नृसिंहदेव भगवान की जय प्रहलाद महाराज की जय वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशवस्य च विष्णु भक्ति पदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशवस्य च विष्णु भक्ति पदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशवस्य च विष्णु भक्ति पदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः वृंदा देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः राधा कृष्ण सेवा पापो सेवा पाबो ये अभिलाषी যে তোমার শরণ লয় তারা বংশ পূর্ণ হয় কৃপা করি করো তারে বৃন্দাবনবাসী মোরাইয়া বিলাস বিলাস কুঞ্জ দিও বাস নয়নে হেরিব সদা যুগল রূপরাশি এই নিবেদন ধরো সখীরানুগত করো সেবাধিকার দিয়ে করো নিজ দাসী दीन कृष्ण दासे कोई न मोर होय दीन कृष्ण दासे कोई न मोर होय श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा न बासी श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा न बासी यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्म हत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi. Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani. Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Shri Vrindaya Tulsi Devyaya Priyaya Keshavasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Prati Devi Satyavatai Namo Namaha. Shri Vrindaya Tulsi Devyaya Keshavasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Prati Devi Satyavatai Namo Namaha. Shri Vrindaya Tulsi Devyaya Priyaya Keshavasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Prati Devi Satyavatai Namo Namaha. Shri Vrinda Devi Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai.
O Tulasi, beloved of Krishna, I bow down before you again and again. My desire is to be service to Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter, you have wish fulfilled. Bestow mercy upon him and make him a resident of Vrindavan. My desire also grant me residence and the I should go to Shri Vrindavan and Ham. Thus within my vision shall behold the beautiful path of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of Karo Dancer's virtues. Please give me the privilege to devotion service and make me your own maidservant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna prays. May I always swim the love, Shri Radha and Govinda, Srimati Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai. There are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting holy names that should be avoided, and they are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotees or dedicate their lives for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider the name of the demigods like Lord Shiva or Brahma to be equal to the dependent name Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Veda literature or literature pursuant Vedic version. 5. To consider glorious chanting Hare Krishna as imagination. 6. To give some interpretation to holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on strength of chanting the holy name. 8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna one of the auspicious ritual activities, offering the Veda the fruity activities, Karma Ganda. 9. To instruct a faithless person about the glorious holy name. 10. To not complete faith in the chanting holy names, and to maintain material attachments even after standing so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee claims to Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses. In order to achieve desired success, Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just as trees who can fulfill to everyone, and are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned soul. Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam ki jai. Jeto Darpana Marjanam Pavamahadavakni Nirvapanam Shriya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavatu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam Purnamita Sadhanam Sarvatmasnapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuta Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatra Pita Niyamita Smaranena Kalaha Etadishi Tavakripa Bhagavam Mamapi Durudevami Disham Ihajanina Nurakaha Trinatapi Sunijena Tarorapi Saishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadaharihi Na Thanam Na Janam Na Sundarim Kavitam Vajagadisha Kamaye Mama Jammani Jammanishvare Bhavatat Bhaktir Haituki Tavayi Ayi Nanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Man Vishame Bhavam Buddha Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja Stitha Turi Satesham Vichintaya Nayanam Galadashuru Tharaya Vadanam Gatkata Rudaya Gira Pulaka Nichitam Vapurka Datava Nama Grahane Pavishati Yuga idam nimishena chakshuksha pravisha idam shunya idam jagat sarvam govinda virahe name ashrishava padaratam pinnashtumam adarshanham marmahatam karotuva yatha tatha va vidathatu lampato matprana nathastu se eva naparaha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam ki jai. Glory to Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is prime benediction of humanity at large, because it spreads a reason of benediction moon. It's the life of all transcendent knowledge. It increases all transcendent bliss, enable us to fully taste the nectar for which always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone grants all benediction of human beings. Thus you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out kindness enables us to easily approach you by holy names, but I'm so unfortunate and have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor to desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O Son of Nanda Krishna, I'm an eternal servitor, yet somehow I fall in the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me at one of Adam's lotus feet. O my Lord, while my eyes bedecked with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant the holy name, while my voice choke up or hairs my body stand at the station of your name. O Govinda, feeling your separation comes a moment to be like a great millennium. Tears are flowing from eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipable Lord, unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam ki jai. Shri Mangala Aarti prayers ki jai. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadhuitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakham Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Pachadete Shatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine Shri Varshabhani Devi Daitaya Kripaptaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Daine Prabhavin Namaha Madhuryo Jala Premada Shri Rupa Nukha Bhaktita Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dina Darine Rupa Nukha Virudapa Siddhanta Dvanta Harine Namo Gaura Kishoraya Saksha Vairagya Murtaye Vipalambara Sampodhe Padam Pujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gaura Virbhava Bhumestvam Nirdishta Sajanapriyaha Vaishnava Sarabhama Shri Jaganathaya Te Namaha Vancha Kalpatarupyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishe Namaha Pancha Tattvatmakam Krishna Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakham Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Chakapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Suratoro Pangor Mamamanda Mater Kati Masarva Swapadam Bojo Radha Madana Mohano Divya Vindaranya Kalpadumada Shimadra Nagara Singhasanasto Shrimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prishtaripi Sevyamano Smarami Shriman Rasa Rasarambi Vamsivata Tatastitaha Karsham Venu Soner Gopir Gopinata Shiyestunaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanishvari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Mangalacharna prayers ki jai Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadya Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam Chintamani Parakara Satmasukopa Viksha Lakshaviteshu Surabi Rabi Palayantam Lakshmi Sahasa Shatasam Paramasevamanam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Venum Kavanantam Aravinda Dalaya Daksham Parharvatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Gandharva Goti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chantaka Lasa Vanamada Vamshi Ranang Kadam Panayakeri Kalavilasam Shamam Tripanga Lalitam Yata Pakasham Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakalenti Avridimanti Pashanti Panti Karayanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chimmay Satujala Vigrahasya Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achotam Anadi Mananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedeshu Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakta Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastu Koti Shatavassara Sampragamyo Vayuratapi Manaso Munipangavaanam Sopyastiya Prapada Simya Vichinta Tatve Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sarachayitum Jagatanta Kotim Yachakti Rasti Jagatanta Chaya Yadantaha Antantarastha Paramanu Chayantarastham Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yad bhava pavitadiyo manujastateva samprapya rupa mahima sanayana bhushaha suktayam eva nigama patitai stuvanti govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami ananda chimma rasa patibhavitabis tapya evan jarupa taya kalapihi goloka eva nivasatya kilatma bhuto Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Churuta Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadeva Hitayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundam Achintya Guna Swarupam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murtishu Kalanyamena Tishtan Nanavatara Makarod Bhuvaneshu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramapumam Yo Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Krishna, who is Govinda, is the Supreme Godhead. He has an eternal blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin and is the prime cause of all causes.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor who is tending the cows, yielding all desire in abodes built with spiritual gems, surrounded by millions of purpose trees, always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis or Gopis.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord who is adept in playing on his flute, with blooming eyes like lotus petals, with head decked with peacock's feather, with the figure of beauty tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and his unique loveliness, charming millions of cupids.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, round whose neck is swinging a garland of flowers beautified with the moon locket, whose two hands are adorned with the flute and jeweled ornaments, who always revels in pastimes of love, whose graceful threefold bending form of Shyamasundar is eternally manifest.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose transcendental form is full of bliss, truth, substantiality, and is thus full of the most dazzling splendor. Each of the limbs of that transcendental figure possesses in himself the full-fledged functions of all the organs, and eternally sees, maintains, and manifests all the infinite universes, both spiritual and mundane.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord who is inaccessible to the Vedas but obtainable by pure unalloyed devotion of the soul, who is without a second, who is not subject to decay, is without a beginning, whose form is endless, who is the beginning and the eternal Purusha. Yet he is a person possessing the beauty of blooming youth.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, only the tip of the toe of whose lotus feet is approached by yogis who aspire after the transcendental and betake themselves to pranayama by drilling the respiration, or by the jnanis who try to find out the non-differentiated Brahman by the process of elimination of the mundane, extending over thousands of millions of years.
He is an undifferentiated entity as there is no distinction between potency and possessor thereof. In his billions of worlds, in his work of creation of millions of worlds, his potency remains inseparable. All the universes exist in him, and he is present in his fullness in every one of the atoms that are scattered throughout the universe, at one and the same time. Such is the primeval Lord whom I adore.
I adore the same Govinda, the primeval Lord, in whose praise men who are imbued with devotion sing the mantra suktas told by the Vedas by gaining their appropriate beauty, greatness, thrones, conveyances, and ornaments.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, residing in his own realm, Goloka, with Radha, resembling his own spiritual figure, the embodiment of the ecstatic potency possessed of the 64 artistic activities, in the company of her confidants, Sakis, embodiments of the extensions of her bodily form, permeated and vitalized by his ever blissful spiritual rasa.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is Shyamasundar, Krishna himself, with inconceivable and innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in their heart of hearts with the eye of devotion, tinged with the self of love.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord who manifested himself personally as Krishna and the different avataras in the world in the forms of Rama, Narsimha, Vamana, etc. as his subjective portions. Shri Brahma Samhita ki Jai.
Bhagavad Gita 7.1 purport. Shrunvatam swakata Krishna punya sravana kirtanaha hridayanta histo hi abhadrani vidunoti suhritsatam nasta prayesva abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama sloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki tada rajastamo bhava kama lobha zayasche cheta eter anavedam sitam satve prasidati evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogatah bhagavad tattva vijnanam mukta सङ्गस्य जायते विद्यते हृदयग्रन्थिश्छिद्यन्ते सर्वसंशयाः क्षीयन्ते च कर्माणि दृष्टा एवात्मनीश्वरे.
To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best wishing friend and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him.
In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees, he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord.
By development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus material lusts and avarice are diminished.
When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate remains steady in his possession of pure goodness, becomes enlivened by devotional service, and understands the sense of God perfectly.
Thus, Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of Asamshayam Samagram, understanding of the Supreme Absolute Truth, personality of Godhead. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the science of Krishna.
Hare Krishna. We'll continue reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 6, text 32. Visovartana tasyorvor loka vritti karir viboh vaishyastadda ubhavo vravartam drinam yah samavartayat. Visha means of living by production and distribution. Avartanta generated. Tasya his the gigantic forms. Urvo from the thighs. Loka vritti karihi means of livelihood. Vibho of the Lord. Vaishya the mercantile community. Tad there. Udbhavaha orientation. Vartam means of living. Drinam of all men. Yaha one who. Samavartayat executed. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The means of livelihood of all persons, namely production of grains and their distribution to the prajas, was generated from the thighs of the Lord's gigantic form. The mercantile men who take charge of such execution are called Vaishyas. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Human society's means of living is clearly mentioned here as Visha or agriculture and the business of distributing agricultural products, which involves transport, banking, etc. Industry is an artificial means of livelihood, and large-scale industry especially is the source of all the problems of society. In Bhagavad Gita also, the duties of the Vaishyas who are engaged in Visa are stated as co-production, agriculture and business. We have already discussed that the human being can safely depend on the cow and agricultural land for his livelihood. The exchange of produce by banking and transportation is a branch of this type of living. The Vaishyas are divided into many subsections. Some of them are called Kshetri or landowners, some are called Krishana or land tillers. Some of them are called Tilavanik or grain grazers. Some are called Gandhavanik or merchants in spices. And some are called Suvarnavanik or merchants in gold and banking. The Brahmanas are the teachers and spiritual masters. The Kshatriyas protect the citizens from the hands of thieves and miscreants. And the Vaishyas are in charge of production and distribution. The Shudras, the unintelligent class of men who cannot act independently in any of the above mentioned activities, are meant for serving the three higher classes for their livelihood. Formerly, the Brahmanas were given all the necessities of life by the Kshatriyas and Vaishyas because they had no time to spend making a living. The Kshatriyas would collect taxes from the Vaishyas and Sudras, but the Brahmanas were exempt from paying income tax or land revenue. That system of human society was so nice that there were no political, social and economic upheavals. The different castes or Varna classifications are therefore essential for maintaining a peaceful human society.
Canto 3, Chapter 6, Text 33. Padbhyam Bhagavato Jagne Shushrusha Dharma Siddhaye Tasyam Jatah Pura Shudro Yadvritya Tusyate Harihi. Padbhyam from the legs, Bhagavata of the personality of Godhead. Jagne became manifested. Shushrusha, service. Dharma, occupational duty. Siddhaye, for the matter of. Tasyam, in that. Jata, being generated. Pura, formerly. Shudraha, the servitors. Yat vrittaya, the occupation by which. Tusyate, becomes satisfied. Harihi, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Translation. Thereafter, service was manifested from the legs of the Personality of Godhead for the sake of perfecting the religious function. Situated on the legs are the Shudras who satisfy the Lord by service. Purport. Service is the real constitutional occupation of all living entities. The living entities are meant to render service to the Lord, and they can attain religious perfection by this service attitude. One cannot attain religious perfection simply by speculating to attain theoretical knowledge. The Jnani division of spiritualists go on speculating only to distinguish the soul from matter, but they have no information of the activities of the soul after being liberated by knowledge. It is said that persons who only mentally speculate to know things as they are and who do not engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord are simply wasting their time. It is clearly said here that the principle of service was generated from the legs of the Lord for the sake of perfecting the religious process. But this transcendental service is different from the idea of service in the material world. In the material world, no one wants to be a servant. Everyone wants to become the master, because false mastership is the basic disease of the conditioned soul. The conditioned souls in the material world wants to lord it over others. Illusioned by the external energy of the Lord, he is forced to become a servant of the material world. That is the real position of the conditioned soul. The last snare of the illusory external energy is the conception of becoming one with the Lord, and due to this conception, the illusioned soul remains in the bondage of material energy, falsely thinking himself a liberated soul and as good as Narayana. It is actually better to be a Shudra than to be a Brahmana and not develop the service attitude, because the attitude alone satisfies the Lord. Every living being, even if he be a Brahmana by qualification, must take to the transcendental service of the Lord. Both Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam support that this service attitude is the perfection of the living entity. A Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya or Shudra can perfect his occupational duties only by rendering service unto the Lord. A Brahmana is supposed to know this fact due to his perfection in Vedic wisdom. The other sections are supposed to follow the direction of the Brahmana Vaishnava, one who is a Brahmana by qualification and a Vaishnava by action. That will make the entire society perfect in regard to the order of its social construction. A disordered society cannot satisfy either the members of the society or the Lord. Even if one is not a perfect Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya or Shudra, but takes to the service of the Lord, not caring for the perfection of his social position, he becomes a perfect human being simply by developing the attitude of service to the Supreme Lord.
Text 34. Ete varna swadharmena yajanti swagurum harim Shraddhayatma Vishuddhyartam Yajjata Sahavrittibi. Ete, all these, Varnaha, orders of society, Swadharmena, by one's own occupational duties, Yajanti, worship, Svaguru, with the spiritual master, Harim, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shraddhaya, with faith and devotion, Atma, self. Vishuddhi Atma, Artam, for purifying. Yat, from whom. Jata, born. Saha, along with. Vritti B, occupational duty. Translation. All these different social divisions are born with their occupational duties and living conditions from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, for unconditional life and self-realization, one has to worship the Supreme Lord under the direction of the spiritual master. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Since they are born from different parts of the body of the Supreme Lord in a gigantic form, all living entities in all parts of the entire universe are supposed to be eternal servitors of the Supreme Body. Every part of our body, such as the mouth, hands, thighs, and legs, is meant to render service to the whole. That is not the constitutional position. In subhuman life, the living entities are not conscious of this constitutional position. But in the human form of life, they are supposed to know this through the system of the Varnas, the social order. As above mentioned, the Brahmana is a spiritual master of all orders of society, and thus Brahmanical culture, culminating in the transcendental service of the Lord, is the basic principle for purifying the soul. In conditional life, the soul is under the impression that he can become the Lord of the universe. And the last point of the misconception is to think of oneself the Supreme. The foolish conditioned soul does not take into account that the Supreme cannot be conditioned by Maya or illusion. If the Supreme were to become conditioned by illusion, where would be his supremacy? In that case, Maya or illusion would be the Supreme. Therefore, because of the living entities are conditioned, they cannot be supreme. The actual position of the conditioned soul is explained in the verse. All the conditioned souls are impure due to contact with the material energy in three modes of nature. Therefore, it is necessary that they purify themselves under the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, who is not only a Brahmana by qualification, but must also be a Vaishnava. The only self-purifying process mentioned herein is to worship the Lord under a recognized method, under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. That is the natural way of purification, and no other method is recommended as bona fide. The other methods of purification may be helpful to come to this stage of life, but ultimately one has to come to this last point before he attains actual perfection. Bhagavad Gita 7.19 confirms this truth as follows. Bahunam janma namante jnanavan mam pravatite
Vasudeva sarvam
iti samatma sudarlabha.
Text 35, Canto 3, Chapter 6. एताक्षत्तर भगवतो दैव कर्मात्म रूपिणाः खश्रद्धाद्याद उपकर्तुं योगमाया बलोदयम्. This kshattah, O Vidura, Bhagavataha of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Daiva Karma Atma Rupinaha of the gigantic form of transcendental work, time and nature. Kha, who else? Shraddha Dhyab, can aspire, upakartum, measure in totality, yogamaya, internal potency, bala udayam, manifested by the strength of. Translation: O Vidura, who can estimate or measure the transcendental time, work, and potency of the gigantic form manifested by the internal potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The froggish philosophers may go on with their mental speculation on the subject matter of the Virat, the gigantic form exhibited by the Yogamaya, internal potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But factually, no one can measure such a vast exhibition. In Bhagavad Gita 11.16, Arjuna, the recognized devotee of the Lord, says, Aneka bahudara vaktra netram pashyami tvam sarvato nantarupam nantam namadyam napunastavadim pashyami vishveshwara vishwarupa. O my Lord, O gigantic Vishwarupa form, O Master of the universe, I see innumerable hands, bodies, mouths and eyes in all directions, and they are all unlimited. I cannot find the end of this manifestation, nor do I see the middle nor the beginning. Bhagavad Gita was specifically spoken to Arjuna, and the Vishwarupa was exhibited before him at his request. He was awarded the specific eyes to see this Vishwarupa. Yet, although he was able to see the Lord's innumerable hands and mouths, he was unable to see him completely. Since Arjuna was unable to estimate the length and breadth of the potency of the Lord, who else would be able to do so? One may only indulge in miscalculation like the frog philosopher. The frog philosopher wanted to estimate the length and breadth of the Pacific Ocean by his experience of a well 3 cubic feet large, and thus he began to puff himself up to become as big as the Pacific Ocean, but at last he burst and died by this process. This story is applicable to the mental philosophers who, under the illusion of the Lord's external energy, indulge in estimating the length and breadth of the Supreme Lord. The best path is to become a cool-headed, submissive devotee of the Lord. Try to hear about the Lord from the bona fide spiritual master and thus serve the Lord in transcendental loving service as suggested in previous verse.
Canto 3, Chapter 6, Text 36. Tatapi kirtya yami anga yata mati yata shrutam kirtim hare swam satkartum giram anyabhi dhiya satim. Tata, therefore, api, although it is so, kirtayami, I do describe, anga, O Vidura, yatha, as much as, mati, intelligence, yatha, as much as, shrutam, heard, kirtim, glories, hare, of the Lord, swam, own, satkartum, just purify, giram, speeches, anyabhidha, otherwise, asatim, unchaste. Translation. In spite of my inability, whatever I have been able to hear from the spiritual master and whatever I could assimilate, I am now describing in glorification of the Lord by pure speech, for otherwise my power of speaking would remain unchaste. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The purification of the conditioned soul necessitates purification of his consciousness. By the presence of consciousness, the presence of the transcendental soul is verified. And as soon as consciousness leaves the body, the material body is not active. Consciousness is perceived, therefore, by activities. The theory put forward by empiric philosophers that consciousness can remain in an inactive state is the proof of their poor fund of knowledge. One should not become unchaste by stopping the activities of pure consciousness. If the activities of pure consciousness are stopped, certainly the conscious living force will be otherwise engaged. Because unless engaged, the consciousness has no standing. Consciousness cannot be silent even for a moment. When the body does not act, the consciousness acts in the form of dreams. Unconsciousness is artificial. By induced and extraneous help, it remains for a limited period. But when the intoxication of the drug is finished, or when one is awake, the consciousness again acts earnestly. Maitreya's statement is that in order to avoid unchaste conscious activities, he was trying to describe the unlimited glories of the Lord, although he did not have the ability to describe them perfectly. This glorification of the Lord is not a product of research but the result of hearing submissively from the authority of the spiritual master. It is also not possible to repeat all that one has heard from his spiritual master, but one can narrate as far as possible by one's honest endeavor. It does not matter whether the Lord's glories are fully explained or not. One must attempt to engage one's bodily, mental and verbal activities in the transcendental glorification of the Lord. Otherwise, such activities will remain unchaste and impure. The existence of the unconditioned soul can be purified only by the method of engaging mind and speech in the service of the Lord. The Tridandi sannyasi of the Vaishnava should accept 3 rods respecting the vow to engage in the service of the Lord with body, mind and speech. whereas the Ekadandi sannyasi takes the oath to become one with Supreme. Since the Lord is the Absolute, there is no distinction between him and his glories. The glories of the Lord, as chanted by the Vaishnava sannyasi, are as substantial as the Lord himself, and thus, while glorifying the Lord, the devotee becomes one with him in transcendental interest, although he remains eternally a transcendental servitor. This simultaneously one and different position of the devotee makes him eternally purified, and thus his life becomes a complete success.
एकान्तलाभं पुंसां सुश्लोकमूलेर्गुणवादमाह आहुः श्रुतेश्च विद्वाद्भिरुपाकृतायां कथासुधायाम् उपसंप्रयोगम्. Ekanta, the one who has no comparison. Labham, gain. Vachasa, by discussions. Na pumsa, after the Supreme Person. Sushloka, pious. Maule, activities. Gunavadam, glorification. Ahu, it is said so. It is so said. Shrute, of the hear. Cha, also. Vivadbi, by the learned. Upakritayam, being so edited. Kata sudayam, in the nectar of such a transcendental message. Upasamprayogam, serves the real purpose, being nearer to. Translation. The highest perfection gain of humanity is to engage in discussions of the activities and glories of the pious actor. Such activities are so nicely arranged in writing by the greatly learned sages that the actual purpose of the ear is served just by being near them. Purport. The personalists are very much afraid of hearing the activities of the Lord because they think that the happiness is derived from the transcendental situation of Brahman, from the ultimate goal of life. They think that anyone's activity, even that of the personality of Godhead, is mundane. But the idea of happiness indicated in this verse is different because it relates to the activities of the Supreme Personality, who has transcendental qualities. The word Gunavadam is significant because in the qualities of the Lord and his activities and pastimes of the subject matter for the discussion of devotees. A rishi like Maitreya is certainly not interested in discussing anything pertaining to mundane qualities. Yet he says that the highest perfectional stage of transcendental realization is to discuss the Lord's activities. Srila Jiva Goswami therefore concludes that topics regarding the transcendental activities of the Lord are far beyond the transcendental realization of Kaivalya happiness. These transcendental activities of the Lord are so arranged in writing of the great sages that simply by hearing of those narrations, one becomes perfectly self-realized, and the proper use of the hearing tongue are also achieved. Srimad Bhagavatam is one of the great literatures, and the highest perfectional stage of life is attained simply by hearing and reciting its contents.
Text 38. Atmano vasito vasta mahima kavinadinam samvatsara sahasrante diya yoga vipakkaya. Atmana, of the Supreme Soul, avasitaha, known. Vasta, O my dear son. Mahima, glories. Kavina, by the poet Brahma. Adina, original. Samvatsara, celestial years. Sahasrante, at the end of the 1000 diya. Diya, by intelligence. Yoga vipakkaya, by matured meditation. Translation. O my son, the original poet Brahma, after mature meditation for 1000 celestial years, could know only that the glories of the Supreme Soul are inconceivable. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. There are some froggish philosophers who want to know the Supreme Soul by means of philosophy and mental speculation. And when the devotees who are to some extent in knowledge of the Supreme Lord admit that the glories of the Lord are inestimable or inconceivable, the froggish philosophers adversely criticize them. These philosophers, like the frog in the well, who tried to estimate the measurement of the Pacific Ocean, like to take trouble over fruitless mental speculation instead of taking instruction from devotees like the original poet, namely Brahma. Lord Brahma underwent a severe type of meditation for 1000 celestial years. Yet, he said that the glories of the Lord are inconceivable. Therefore, what can the froggish philosophers hope to gain from their mental speculation? It is said in the Brahma Samhita that the mental speculators may fly through the sky of speculation with the velocity of the mind or the wind for thousands of millions of years, and still he will find it inconceivable. The devotees, however, do not waste time in such vain searching after knowledge of the Supreme, but they submissively hear the glories of the Lord from bona fide devotees. Thus, they transcendentally enjoy the process of hearing and chanting. The Lord approves of the devotional activities of the devotees or Mahatmas, and he says, Mahatmastu mam partha daivim prakriti mashritaha bhajanti ananyamanaso gnatva bhutadim avyayam satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha drudavrataha namasyantascha mam bhaktya nitya yukta upasate. Bhagavad Gita 9.13 to 14. The pure devotees of the Lord take shelter of the Paraprakriti, the internal potency of the Lord, called Lakshmi Devi, Sita Devi, Srimati Radharani, or Srimati Rukmini Devi, and thus they become actual Mahatmas or great souls. Mahatmas are not fond of indulging in mental speculation, but they actually take to the devotional service of the Lord without the slightest deviation. Devotional service is manifested by the primary process of hearing and chanting about the activities of the Lord. This transcendental method, practiced by the Mahatmas, gives them sufficient knowledge of the Lord, because if the Lord can at all be known to some extent, it is only through the means of the devotional service and no other way. One may go on speculating and waste the valuable time of his human life, but that will not help anyone to enter into the precincts of the Lord. The Mahatmas, however, are not concerned with knowing the Lord by mental speculation, because they enjoy hearing about his glorious activities in his transcendental dealings with his devotees or with the demons. The devotees take pleasure in both and are happy in this life and the life after.
Text 39. Ato bhagavato maya mayi nama bimohini yatkam yatsvayam chatmavartmatma na veda kim utapare. Atah, therefore, Bhagavataha, godly, Maya, potencies, Mayinam, of the jugglers, Api, even, Mohini, enchanting, yet that which, Swayam, personally, Cha, also, Atma, Vartma, self-sufficient, Atma, self, Na, does not, Veda, no, Kim, what, Uta, to speak of, Apare, others. Translation. The wonderful potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is bewildering even to the jugglers. That potential power is unknown even to the self-sufficient Lord, so it is certainly unknown to others. Purport. The froggish philosophers and mundane wranglers in science and mathematical calculation may not believe in the inconceivable potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they are sometimes puzzled by the wonderful jugglery of man and nature. Such jugglers and magicians of the mundane world are actually puzzled by the jugglery of the Lord in his transcendental activities, but they try to adjust their bewilderment by saying that it is all mythology. There is, however, nothing impossible or mythological in the Supreme Omnipotent Person. The most wonderful puzzle for the mundane wranglers is that while they remain calculating the length and breadth of the unlimited potency of the Supreme Person, his faithful devotees are set free from the bondage of material engagement simply by appreciating the wonderful jugglery of the Supreme in the practical field. The devotees of the Lord see the wonderful dexterity in everything with which they come in contact in all circumstances of eating, sleeping, working, etc. A small banyan fruit contains thousands of small seeds, and each seed holds the potency of another tree, which again holds the potency of many millions of such fruits as causes and effects. So the trees and seeds engage the devotees in meditation about the activities of the Lord, while the mundane wranglers waste time in dry speculation and mental concoction, which are fruitless in both this life and the next. In spite of their pride in speculation, they can never appreciate the simply potential activities of the banyan tree. Such speculators are poor souls destined to remain in matter perpetually.
Text 40. Ito prapyanya vartanta vachacha manasa saha aham chanya ime devas tasmai bhagavate namaha. Yata, from whom, aprapya, being unable to measure, anyavartanta, cease to try, vachaha, words, cha, also, manasa, with the mind, saha, with ahamcha, also the ego, anye, other, ime, all these, devaha, demigods, tasmai, unto him, bhagavate, unto the personality of Godhead, namaha, offer obeisances. Translation: words, mind, and ego, with their respective controlling demigods, have failed to achieve success in knowing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, we simply have to offer our respectful obeisances unto him as a matter of sanity. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The froggish calculator may raise the objection that if the Absolute is unknowable even by the controlling deities of speech, mind, and ego, namely the Vedas, Brahma, Rudra, and all the demigods headed by Brihaspati, then why should the devotees be so interested in this unknown object? The answer is that the transcendental ecstasy enjoyed by the devotees in delineating the pastimes of the Lord is certainly unknown to non-devotees and mental speculators. Unless one relishes transcendental joy, naturally one will come back from his speculations and concocted conclusions, because he will see them as neither factual nor enjoyable. The devotees can at least know that the absolute truth is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, as the Vedic hymns confirm, Om Tat Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pashyanti Surayaha. Bhagavad Gita 15.15 also confirms this fact. Vedaischa sarva ahameva vedyaha. By culture of Vedic knowledge, one must know Lord Krishna and should not falsely speculate on the word aham or I. The only method for understanding the supreme truth is devotional service, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita 18.15.5. Bhaktiyamam abhijananti yavan yaschasmi tattvataha. Only by devotional service one can know the ultimate truth is the personality of Godhead, and that Brahman and Paramatma are only his partial features. This is confirmed in this verse by the great sage Maitreya. With devotion, he offers his sincere surrender, Namah, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavate. One has to follow in the footsteps of great sages and devotees like Maitreya and Vidura, Maharaja Parakshita and Sukadeva Goswami, and engage in the transcendental devotional service of the Lord. If one would know his ultimate feature, which is above Brahman and Paramatma, thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 3rd canto, 6th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Creation of the Universal Form.
Chapter 7. Further Enquiries by Vidura. Text 1. Shri Shuka Uvacha Evam Bruvanam Maitreyam Daipayana Suto Buddha Prinayan Iva Bharatya Viduraha Pratyabhashata. Shri Shuka Uvacha. Shri Shukadeva Goswami said, Evam, thus, Bhuvanam, speaking, Maitreyam, unto the sage Maitreya, Dvaipayana Sutaha, the son of Dvaipayana, Buddhaha, learned, Pranayan, in the pleasing manner, Iva, as it was, Bharatya, in the manner of a request, Viduraha, Vidura, Pratyabhashyatha, expressed. Translation. Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, O king, while Maitreya, the great sage, was thus speaking, Vidura, the learned son of Dvaipayana Vyasa, expressed a request in the pleasing manner by asking this question.
Text 2. Vidura uvacha Brahman kadam bhagavatas chinmatrasya vikarinaha leelaya chapi yujyeran nirgunasya gunakriyaha. Vidura uvacha, Vidura said, Brahmana, ho Brahmana, Katam, how, Bhagavata, of the personality of Godhead, Chit Matrasya, of the complete spiritual whole, Avikarinaha, of the unchangeable, Leelaya, by his pastime, Cha, either, Api, even though it is so, Yujjiran takes place, Nirgunasya, who is without the modes of nature, Gunaha, modes of nature, Kriya, activities. Translation. Sri Vidura said, O great Brahmana, since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a complete spiritual whole and is unchangeable, how is he connected with the material modes of nature and their activities? If this is his pastime, how do the activities of the unchangeable takes place and exhibit qualities without the modes of nature? Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. As described in the previous chapter, the difference between the Super Soul, the Supreme Lord, and the living entities is that the activities of the Lord in creating the cosmic manifestation are performed by the Lord through the agency of His multifarious energies. But this manifestation is bewildering to the living entities. The Lord is therefore the master of the energies, whereas the living entities are subjugated by them. By asking various questions about transcendental activities, Vidura is clearing the misconception that when the Lord either descends on the earth in his incarnation or appears himself with all his potencies, he too is subjected to the influence of Maya, just like an ordinary living entity. This is generally the calculation of less intelligent philosophers who consider the position of the Lord and that of the living entities to be on the same level. Vidura is hearing the great sage Maitreya refute these arguments. The Lord is described in this verse as Chinmatra, or completely spiritual. The personality of Godhead has unlimited potencies to create and manifest many wonderful things, both temporary and permanent. Because this material world is a creation of His external energy, it thus appears to be temporary. It is manifested at certain intervals, maintained for some time, and again dissolved and conserved in His own energy. As described in Bhagavad Gita 8.19, Bhutva Bhutva Praliyate. But the creation of His internal potency, the spiritual world, is not a temporary manifestation like the material world, but is eternal and full of transcendental knowledge, opulence, energy, strength, beauties, and glories. Such manifestations of the Lord's potencies are eternal and are therefore called nirguna, or free from all tinges of the modes of material nature, even up to the mode of material goodness. The spiritual world is transcendental even to the material goodness, and thus is unchangeable. Since the Supreme Lord of such eternal, unchangeable qualities is never subjugated by anything like material influence, how can His activities and form be conceived to be under the influence of illusory Maya, as is the case with the living entities? A juggler or magician displays many wonders with these acts and arts. He can become a cow by his magical tactics, and yet he is not that cow, but at the same time, the cow displayed by the magician is not different from him. Similarly, the material potency is not different from the Lord because it is an emanation from Him. But at the same time, that manifestation of potency is not the Supreme Lord. The Lord's transcendental knowledge and potency always remain the same. They do not change even when displayed in the material world. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord descends on the earth by his own internal potency, and therefore there is no question of his becoming materially contaminated, changed, or otherwise affected by the modes of material nature. The Lord is Saguna by his own internal potency, but at the same time he is Nirguna, since he is not in touch with the material energy. The restrictions of the prison house are applicable to prisoners who are condemned by the king's law, but the king is never affected by such implication. Although he may visit the Persian house out of his goodwill. In the Vishnu Purana, the 6 opulences of the Lord are stated to be non-different from him. The opulences of transcendental knowledge, strength, opulence, potency, beauty, and renunciation are all identical with the personality of Godhead. When he personality displays such opulences in the material world, they have no connection with the modes of material nature. The very word Chinmatratva is a guarantee that the Lord's activities are always transcendental, even when displayed in the material world. His activities are as good as the Supreme Personality himself. Otherwise, liberated devotees like Sukadeva Goswami would not have been attracted by them. Vidura inquired how the Lord's activities can be in the modes of material nature, as is sometimes miscalculated by persons with a poor fund of knowledge. The inebriety of the material qualities is due to the difference between the material body and the spirit soul. The conditioned soul activities are displayed through the medium of the modes of material nature and are therefore perverted in appearance. However, the Lord's body and the Lord himself are one and the same. And when the Lord's activities are displayed, they are certainly non-different from the Lord in all respects. The conclusion is that persons who consider the Lord's activities material are certainly mistaken.
Text 3. Kridayam udyamo ribhasya kamaschikrishyantyataha swatastriptasya cha katham nivritasya sadanyataha. Kridayam, in the matter of playing, udyamaha, enthusiasm, arbhasya, of the boys, kamaha, desire, chikridisya, willingness to play, anyataha, with other boys, swatah triptasya, for one who is self-satisfied, cha, also, katham, what for, nivritasya, one who is detached, sada, at all times, anyataha, otherwise. Translation: boys are enthusiastic to play with other boys or with various diversions because they are encouraged by desire. But there is no possibility of such desire for the Lord because he is self-satisfied and detached from everything at all times. Purport by His Divine Grace. ऐसे Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is one without a second, there is no possibility that anything besides him can exist. He expands himself by his energies in multi-forms of self-expansions and separated expansions as well. Just as fire expands itself by heat and light, since there is no other existence besides the Lord himself, the Lord's association with anything manifests his association with himself. In Bhagavad Gita 9.4, the Lord says, Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina matsthani sarva bhutani na chaham teshva avastitaha. The complete manifestation of the cosmic situation is an expansion of the Lord himself in his impersonal feature. All things are situated in him only, yet he is not in them. That is the opulence of the Lord's attachment and detachment. He is attached to everything, yet he is detached from all.
So today we read up to Canto 3, Chapter 7, Text 3. We'll continue reading tomorrow. Vandaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. We'll continue to Guru Puja. Hare Krishna.
You want to sing? You want to sing? Okay.
Prabhuji, you can use mine. Use mine.
Oh, he got it. I don't know. There's so many that it disappears. Prabhu, you can do it. जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा श्री गुरु चरण पद्मा केवल भक्ति सद्मा बंद मुई सावधान माते जहर प्रसादे भय ए भव तोरिया जाय कृष्णा प्राप्ति होय जाहा होइते गुरुमुख पद्मा वाक्या चिते कोरिया क्या अरना कोरी हो मने आशा अरना कोरी हो मने आशा श्री गुरु चरणे रति ऐसे उत्तम गति जे प्रसादे पूरे सर्व आशा जे प्रसादे पूरे सर्व आशा चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशितो प्रेम भक्ति चाह होते अविद्या विनाशा जाते वेदे गाय जहर चरितो करुणा सिंधु अधम जनर बंधु लोकनाथ लोकेर दीवाना हाँ हाँ प्रभु करो दया देहो मोरे पद छाया हाँ हाँ प्रभु करो दया देहो मोरे पद छाया हे बेजाज गुशिक त्रिभुवन शीला प्रभुपाद पतित पवन शीला प्रभुपाद लोइलो शरण जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमति भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. 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 Ki Jai. 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 Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Ki Jai.
I bow down to the lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his much grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills our desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him, ecstatic prema emanates, by him, ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Loknath Goswami, O Master, be merciful unto me. Give me the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. We take the shelter of lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.